Hello, third grade. This is Mr. Thomas, and today I'm going to be going over the idea of rounding, kind of what it is and how we do it. So, rounding, what is it? So, here is kind of the basic idea. Let's see, so rounding pretty much means making a number more simple, but keeping it pretty close to the number that we start with. So it's a little bit like estimating. It means about what. So if we look at these two numbers down here, we're going to be rounding to the tens place. We have the number 53 and we have the number 133. Okay. What we want to do is we want to think of what 10 is 53 closest to. And if you count by tens, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, and so on, 53 comes between 50 and 60. So what I would do, and I'm going to use WebPaint for this, I'm going to think of the number 53, and 50 comes before it. So on this thing that I'm going to call a rounding hill, we would write the number 50, because 50 is the 10 that comes before 53. And then the 10 that comes after 53, if we count by tens, is 60. So I'm going to write 60 over here. Right in the middle of 50 and 60 is 55. So what I would do is I would write the number 55 right in the middle. And with this kind of skill and concept and I guess strategy, we want to think of 53 where it would fall on either side of 55. So in this case, 53 would be over here. It's between 50 and 55. And we want to think of it kind of as a ball. And if that's a hill, and you put a ball on a hill, that ball is going to roll down the hill. So we can say that 53 is going to round to 50. That is the closest 10 to 53. And we can take that same idea and apply it to a slightly larger number. So I'm going to take the number 133. The 10 that comes before 133 is 130, which I will write over here. And the 10 that comes above it, if you're counting by tens, 120, 130, 140. 140 would go over here. So I would write 140. In the middle, between 130 and 140, would be 135. And I want to just, for a moment, talk about the number 5 when we're rounding. So 5 is kind of an important number because if a number ends with a 5, if this happened to be 135, when it ends with a 5 and you're rounding to the tens place, it's always going to go this direction. But in this case, 133 is going to be over here. And so that would round to 130. Okay? If this happened to be, say, 137, that would have been over here, and it would go this way and round to 140. So that's a little bit how that works. So that's rounding to the tens place. Now we're going to jump to the next page, which is rounding to the hundreds place. And I want you to remember that when we round, we're making a number more simple and keeping it pretty close to the number that we start with. And I actually think that rounding to the hundreds place is easier than the tens place. The same idea applies. I'm going to open up that WebPaint extension again. And I need to clear that because we don't need those numbers there. So the number 139, it is between 100 and 200. So what I'm going to do on my rounding hill here, when I'm rounding to the hundreds place, I'm going to put 100 here because that's the 100 below 139. And 200 is the number that is the 100 above 139. In the middle, between 100 and 200, is 150. And just like before, we're going to think of where 139 would be. 139 is a little bit less than 150, so that would kind of go here. So that's where 139 would kind of go on our rounding hill. And that ball always rolls downhill. So 139, if we're rounding to the hundreds place, we're going to say would round to 100. I've got one more example to do. I'm going to clear that page. Now we're going to do 555. The 100 below it is 500. You hear that when you say the number 555. So the 100 below is 500. And if you go to the next 100, if you're counting by hundreds, 100, 200, 300, 400, 500, 600 is the next 100. So I'm going to write 600 over here. In the middle between 500 and 600 is 550. 550 will be right in the middle. And we're almost done. 555 is just a little bit past 550. So that would kind of go around here, if it's that ball again. So 555 is right there. But if it's past the middle, it's going to always go downhill. So in this case, we would say 555 would round to 600. So that is a basic overview of rounding to the tens place and to the hundreds place. And I recommend using this strategy of drawing a simple little thing I call a rounding hill. And then you can always think of that ball as the number that we are rounding. So I hope that is helpful.